I'll take the mic.
Okay, here, hold on. Then there you go, Simon.
And thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
All right, well, good afternoon. It's late in the day, so this is going to be an interactive session. I was going to put together, hey, wait, Dave, wait, where are you going? My next point was like, let's hear it for Dave and Scott putting this together. Really good job. Got to have one of these guys stick around.
Just running off to do one thing.
Do your thing. Do your thing. Now, I wanted to say, though, I mean, this is great for the community, right? Because it brings us all together, get to meet other people who are having the same challenges, facing this, maybe similar experiences, maybe not, and we learn from each other. We build our own networks, and let's keep this going. It doesn't have to be, I saw you last year at Scrum Day. Let's make it a regular occurrence. So, yeah, good stuff. I was going to have slides. You're welcome. I'm not doing slides. No slides today. But before I start, I wanted to get a sense of who here is working as a Scrum Master. You know, maybe not 100% of your time, but you're working as a Scrum Master. How about a developer? Any devs in the house? How about product owners? Do we have any product owners here? One lonely product owner. Anyone else from management? Good, great. Good, so we've kind of covered a good spectrum. Anyone I didn't call who wants to be associated with a category? No? Okay. I work as a Scrum Master and coach. I've been doing it for about 6 years or so, and I have the time of my life, even when things look terrible. I always say, you know, this team that's rolling their eyes every time I say, let's do something, they're my crucible. They sharpen me. They make me a better person. And not only that, but also my coworkers who are peers, who are also Scrum Masters or product owners, I learn from them. They learn, hopefully, from me. We learn from each other. And that's what this is about, this session. I'm working on the assumption that we are all here because we want to improve ourselves, improve how we operate as Scrum Masters, as product owners, as Agilists. We want to do it for our own personal reasons. We'd like to get our teams developed and operating better. And we'd like to lift up our entire organization. So I believe that pair coaching really does accomplish all of these objectives. And from this morning's keynote, we heard Ed and Stas say something to the effect that you don't have to sacrifice speed for quality, which is brilliant because, in my opinion, pair coaching accomplishes both. You get up to speed. You get your learning done faster, you're accelerating your learning, but you're not losing quality. In fact, it's, in my opinion, maybe the best way to learn is with another human being, as opposed to reading it in a book or watching it on a YouTube channel or something. So as I said, the benefits of pair coaching are many. It accelerates your learning. It helps you build yourself, build the skills in yourself, as well as in teams and the organizations. And it really lets you identify any bad practices, any bad habits that you have are quickly pointed out. I, as a lone practitioner, might be skipping over a certain part of the Scrum process or ceremony that maybe I shouldn't, but I let it slide. If I'm with a partner, chances are it's not sliding for very long. And it also really doubles up on the good skills that you have. Someone can give you that advice and say, wow, you're very good at that. You need to do more of it or help me out with my experiences, my problems. So, pair coaching. I'm not talking about a full-time pair coaching engagement where you're working with one other coach 100% of your time. And when I say coaching, I'm also broadening that definition to include Scrum Masters, product owners, anyone who's taking on a role to help the team or help the organization. So I'm not talking about a full-time one person together engagement, although some Agile houses do that, like Solutions IQ or Big Visible. I think I remember talking to people there that said whenever they go on engagements, their coaches only work in pairs with other teams. And I thought, you know, that's pretty intriguing. Good job if you can get it. But, you know, I'm talking here in this session about sprinkling in pairing experiences throughout the cadence, throughout the normal work day or work cycle that we have. So how many of you will admit to doing some form of pair coaching in the workplace now? Let me see a show of hands. All right, so about a third of us. I told you this was an interactive session, so I'm getting you to raise hands and clap, and, getting the blood going. That's great. I never really gave it much thought myself. If you were to ask me maybe 2 or 3 years ago, do I do pair coaching? I'd be like, what's that? No. But then when I sat back and thought about it, I'm working with a product owner. We're trying to come up with creative ways to engage our teams or better ways to refine the backlog. Or I'm working with another Scrum Master, and we're trying to think, how can we get Agile permeated throughout the organization? These are examples of pair coaching. Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You can see the HDMI over there.
Oh man,
So
yeah.
Can you just stay on that side?
I'll
turn that off. Yeah, that's right.
Turning it off would be excellent if
I don't know how to do that.
if we can accomplish that.
Continuous improvement.
Thank you. So you know what I'm going to do to take that continuous improvement up a notch? I'm going to take this blue tape and put it on the floor as a reminder to me that if I stand here. So is this okay? Everyone can still see and hear me.
Interesting stuff to say, so we want to concentrate.
Oh, thank you. That's great feedback. So if anyway, I'll leave that there. Okay. All right. So let me ask also, what comes to mind? I want to hear some phrases or words or terms that come to mind when I say pair coaching. What does that indicate? Yeah.
Mentorship.
Mentorship.
Training.
Training.
Buddies.
Buddies.
Sharing.
Collaborate, sharing. If you were going to make a bumper sticker that said, I do pair coaching, something to that effect, what would you put on the bumper sticker? I'm thinking along the lines of like 2 heads are better than 1.
Pair coaches prevail.
Pair coaches prevail.
Don't coach alone.
Don't coach alone. Yeah.
Paul, I have to write that down. You got copyrights?
So like it takes 2 to tango. We're used to a lot of these metaphors or these phrases in our language. The idea that 2 is somehow better than 1. Or maybe 1 + 1 = 3. You know, that having more than one person together really does bring your level up. So I wanted to use that as a device to just try to get us going. I thought, what would you put on a bumper sticker? Because a bumper sticker has to be short. You can't fit a whole paragraph on a bumper sticker. All right, the bottom line is that, as someone said, you're not alone. Being alone, working alone sucks. Operating in a vacuum is really no way to learn or grow yourself or lead a team. So I want to next dive into what are the roles of pair coaching. Just a few roles that I've come up with. And what I'd like to do, because I'm up here by myself teaching, or I shouldn't say teaching, I'm not teaching. Talking about pair coaching by myself, I want to grab a partner for a short bit. Can I get a volunteer, just someone to spend 2 or 3 minutes up here with me? Did I hear? Yes. She almost raised her hand. I take an almost as a sign of. What's your name?
My name is Chris Park. No. I'm Rena.
Hi, Rena. I'd like to say I'm picking on Rena, but I'm not. I'm offering Rena an opportunity to accelerate her learning. Anyway, I'm picking on her. So if you wouldn't mind, could you please join me up at the front?
I just don't sing.
You dance?
No, I don't dance.
Are we okay without the mics? And
Yes.
stick maybe here so we don't have the blue line. I'll just put that there. So we'll just project. There's not too many people here. I think we'll be fine. All right, so I'd like to talk about the roles of pair coaching and have Rena, right, help me out as a pair so we can show you how a pair might work. So Rena, I'd like you to just stand here and act as if you're leading a training session. And you don't even have to say anything if you don't want to. You could just kind of gesture like you're talking to the slides. And I'm going to be your pair on the side. We're going to talk about, I'm going to be on this side because that's where my things are. We're going to talk about the trainer and observer pattern. So as Rena is training, I'm quiet off to the side or in the back of the room. I'm observing the room to see if anyone is lost, maybe not getting the topic, and then I can address outliers. I can say, hey, are you having a problem? And I can see, you're trying to connect to the computer, it's not connecting right. I can help. I could take that away from you, right? I could also, Rena can tag me in She could be like, okay, the next 3 slides Vic is going to do, and I'll come up. Or she could call on me as a subject matter expert. Maybe she's talking about net present value. I know nothing about it, but I'll pretend that I'm a subject matter expert. And I'll be like, yes, net present value is 3 words. And I'll talk about it, and then I'll take my space again. I think the most important part of trainer-observer, though, is afterwards, okay, they've all left. Now I can come up and I can say, Rena, you did a great job. Your strong points were X, Y, and Z. You could maybe work on A and B a little bit. I've noticed that blah, blah, blah. Give you a little bit of advice, get a little bit of feedback, and kind of do a mini retrospective. So that in turn helps her training competency in the long run. You're going to stay up here. Do we have any questions on trainer-observer?
I think she should change her name to Vanna.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would it always be a situation where the person, like Rena, is essentially teaching and then invite your participation, or would you ever assert your...
The question is, would the observer ever assert him or herself into the role while she's actively training, while the trainer is actively training? I think it really depends on your relationship, if you talked about it in advance. If you guys have a good level of trust and you feel like asserting yourself, for lack of a better word, coming up is appropriate, why not? But I think it really depends on you guys having that communication and that trust between you before I would come up as an observer. I would tend to think of that role as a trainer and an observer who observes for the most part. I want to go on to the next role, which is driver navigator. So Han had Chewie and Michael had Kit, you know, the driver navigator thing going on here. It's very similar to trainer observer. However, instead of a room full of people, it's now just one-on-one. So in this case, we might have a slightly different skill set or level of skills. I might be not as familiar with Scrum as Rena. She might, we might both be Scrum Masters, and I might have to put together an agenda for a retrospective, like what am I going to do with my team? So in this case, the driver would be the one who's less familiar. You can think of this as kind of like I'll stand here so I don't get that line. Think of it as like pair programming. Like developers, I think I'm familiar with the concept where when people are pairing, the junior developer gets a lot more out of the session when they're hands at the keyboard. And the more senior developer is tempted to put hands on the keyboard, but they're more like in the background, kind of next to the other person, hands tied to their sides or something. So you can think of it in those terms in a way. So if we're working together and I'm less experienced and I want to put together an agenda for a retrospective, you might be my navigator and I'm my driver. So I might come up to you and say, Rena, here's my outline for an agenda. Can you do this for me? Can you just make it for me?
Well, you know, Vic, it actually, I think you're going along the right path. It actually looks great. There's some great points in here. Why don't we work on it together?
See? Good. So she's kind of putting it back to me. It's like, you're on the right path, but keep at it, and I'll be here with you, right? So she's kind of navigating the course, helping me navigate the course. And I'm actually like, I don't want to drive. You drive. But it's working out. So that's a driver navigator. So a product owner and a Scrum Master could be a really good example of a driver navigator. If you're working on a backlog for the first time or for a new project, maybe the Scrum Master knows, doesn't know the product as well as the product owner does, but the product owner doesn't quite have the how to break down the stories, what makes a good story as well as maybe the Scrum Master does. So they might kind of tag team on those activities. Move on. Are we good? All right. So number 3, we only have 5, so we're almost halfway done. May I ask you to, as a team member, a member of a team, just start saying what's on the card there?
We don't need a retrospective. It's such a waste of time. We never used one in the past.
I'm
Blah, blah, blah.
blah, blah, blah. So I'm the bad cop here. Okay, you guys, we've gone 2 sprints without a retrospective, 3 sprints now. We're going to do a retrospective. No ifs, ands, or buts. We're doing a retrospective.
Well, you know, maybe our friend in black here, Mark, maybe Mark is onto something. Why don't we think about what he has to say and actually give it some consideration? What did we learn from our last retrospectives?
Okay. Did you see that dynamic? So one person playing the bad cop, the heavy, or you could think of it in terms of like parental roles, like maybe the mom and the dad kind of play off each other. One person, thank you for doing that, by the way. One person will come off and say, we're going to do this. Take your medicine, shut up, for lack of a better word. I don't know if we do that on our Scrum teams, but I'm just posing a hypothetical. And the other person might come in and offer that empathetic shoulder to cry on. Yeah, we understand that the team's under a lot of pressure, and we know that you don't want to do a retrospective, but let's just give it a try. Or let's talk about it, as you said. But maybe let's just give the bad cop there, just cut him some slack this time. We'll see how it works. We'll talk about it. And if it doesn't work, we'll make changes. So you're really kind of on the same page what the goal is going to be, but you cater to the little psycho whatever of you're catering to the team's like emotional level a little bit differently. You're giving in a bit. I'm not sure if I'm articulating that.
Psyche.
There you go, the psyche. Another way I could use, another example you can use good cop, bad cop might be is if you're both on the team, like a product owner, a Scrum Master, or maybe both product owners or Scrum Masters, and you're working with senior management. So you might say in advance,
Sorry.
no, it's fine. We should grab big Dominoes and do that. Just to tie up good cop, bad cop. So you could think of it in terms of like we are going to approach senior leadership with maybe they're not bought into Agile, or you're trying to sell them on some concept. One person can come in with well, it's got to be this way because studies have shown and I've seen from experience it's going to be that. And the other person can come in and be more empathetic. Listen, I think he's on the right track. I'll be there to just make sure he stays on the right track. So before you go in to see the senior officer, you might already share, okay, I'm going to be the heavy, laying down the bad news, and you kind of prop him up with good news so we walk out of there accomplishing the goal. That's good cop, bad cop. Two more. You're hanging in there.
Okay.
Thank you. Next I have senpai kohai. Japanese words. I know that lean and agile is kind of fraught with a lot of Japanese words, but here's two more for you. The Japanese culture has a very rich legacy of relationships. And in this case, a senpai and a kohai could be thought of as a mentor and a protege, or a mentor and a mentee. Dr. Dave, he disappeared. He mentioned buddy earlier, so I think of this as like the buddy system. So we might be on the same skill level on Scrum or Agile. We've practiced the same number of years. But maybe you've worked at the organization only a month or so, a couple of weeks, and I've been there for a few years. So let me show you where the snack fridge is. Let me tell you when to do your expense report, because it's that time of the cycle where the bosses don't really pay attention to what you're putting on the expense report. Or you need to, if you really want to get your stuff integrated into production, you need to talk to so-and-so because he's down with the process. Don't talk, you're kind of filling them in on organizational tricks, ways to navigate through the enterprise. So that's, to me, the idea behind senpai kohai. It's just a buddy system type of thing. And the last one is co-learners. So you could think of it as, we're both maybe at a lower level of skill in a certain competency, and we're both trying to learn something together to make ourselves better. Oh, wow, I know nothing about human systems dynamics.
Oh my gosh, me neither.
What do you think we should do? I mean, I've heard about it at all these conferences, and I think it sounds good. You want to maybe,
Should
I don't know.
we take a class?
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, all right. So, yeah, so we're going to get better. Look at that. Thank you, Rena. Thank you very much. Round of applause for Rena. No, she's a natural. That's good. Good stuff. So those are the 5 kind of general roles that I've isolated or talked about, like to talk about when I talk about pair coaching. So if I'm in the workplace and I want to work with a peer, and I'm thinking, well, how can we best work? There's got to be a way that we can work. Are we on the same level skill-wise? Are we both low? Are we both pretty advanced in our learnings? Or are we disparate, like far apart? So I think you can kind of get a sense of, like, based on your skill level, what relationship you might want to engage in. The two papers on the desk are yours to keep. One of them, the one that is black and white, bless you, has the 5 roles. It's just a quick guide for the 5 roles that are up on the wall there, the ones that we just demonstrated. The other paper, which for some of you is color, but for me is black and white, so I didn't print out enough colors. But this is a list of competencies, and I don't claim to have made this. In fact, down at the bottom you can see I credit 42 tasks for a Scrum Master's job, something that's been online for a few years now, and you can go to agiletrail.com there and see the full list. But I was trying to think of, okay, I'm going to be talking about pair coaching roles, so I think I want to talk about competencies of a Scrum Master too, because as we've shared, you've got some areas where you could be quite skilled, some competency areas where you know a lot and you're trying to help the other person get up to speed, increase their awareness. Or you could both be at a low level or a middle level, and you can work in different capacities. So what I'd like to ask you to do is let me rest my voice for about 2 minutes, and you don't have to answer all of these questions, but just give the page a look over. And what I've done was I've put 3 questions in each row across. And I've got something like 9 competencies going up and down. So maybe just pick 1 or 2 rows and just like do a self-assessment. Just put a 3 if you're really good at it, a 2 or a 1 if your level isn't absolute perfect, and a 0 if you've got absolutely no history. And then just add those 3 across. So then the final column on the right, which isn't really a column, it kind of wigwags all around, just write like a number up to 9. So you're putting a 1, 2, 3, or 0 in every space, and then you're adding the 3 spaces across, and on the right you're adding that and putting a 0 to a 9. How are we doing? You don't have to do the whole thing if you don't want. Just trying to get you familiar with what it is as a concept, and maybe do a couple rows. So the nice way to say this is the first group that gets to try this potentially amazing game. The other way to say it is, you're my guinea pigs, I've never done this before. But bear with me, I think this might lead to something. I've got some good feelings about it. In front of you, everyone should have a domino on the table. It might be face down, but if you don't have a domino, raise your hand, I'll get you a domino. And I want you to just pick one of the dominoes in front of you. What I'd like to do is pair people up, and we're going to try to do this in 3 iterations. We'll probably pair with one person, then run the quick exercise, do it with a second person, run it, third person, run it, then we'll share the results. So I've got a huge domino here. Haha. You'll see a domino has 2 sides to it. Wow, like pairing, wow. On one side you can have 0 to 9, which coincidentally your pages are 0 to 9. How's that work out? On both sides you'll have some combination of 0 to 9. So I want you to take your domino when we start here and find somebody with a match on one side. Either side is fine. So for example, I'm looking around the room. Oh, Ed, you have a 7? Oh no, you have a 5. I have a 7, I have a 1. Hang on, let's see. Oh, I have a 7. Ted, let's pair up. So now Ted, hold your card up high so people in back can see it. So see how we both have 7s here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. So I like to say, like, walkie-talkie. I don't know, this is how I remember it. I walk to the person with the same one. This is my walkie. This is my talkie. Now I'm going to focus on my 1, and you focus on your 5. So my skill level is 1. I'm a newbie. Your skill level is 5. You're pretty advanced. You're not a 9, but you're pretty advanced. And when I say I'm a 1, I'm looking at one of these competencies across. Like, I'm just going to say for me, I'm not reading yours. For me, where it says leading change, I've got no experience in leading change. I'm a 0, 1, 0. but Ed might be a 5 there. And so he might be a 2, 3, 2. So I'm like, wow, let's talk about leading change. How would we, Ted and I don't know if I called you Ed, sorry. Ted and I how would we work as a pair in pick a competency, anyone? And it could be hypothetical. You could actually be an expert at it, but just for the sake of the exercise, pretend that you are a 1 or a 3 or whatever. But what role would we try to do so we could get through some scenario, and I'm going to leave the scenarios to you, some scenario or some competency here. So let's just go with this for a minute. Let's talk about leading change. The examples here are helping to clear impediments, or suggesting new metrics, or help continuously improve the process. Let's just pretend like that's our scenario, and you can pick any one of these competency areas. Would it make sense for us to be good cop, bad cop in this situation? Probably not. My thinking is good cop, bad cop, you both have to be a pretty average to high competency. It might be dangerous if you're too low. But we could use like a driver navigator. And Ted could say, well, you know, I've helped clear impediments for my teams, and I'm getting better at it. So, Vic, you've got an impediment? Let's see, talk to me about it. What are you trying to do to clear that impediment? Or what are you trying to do to work out new metrics with your teams? And he might mentor me that way a little bit. After we spend maybe 2 minutes or so together, then we're going to trade dominoes. Oh no, this is where it gets so complex. My daughter and I were playing this game, and she was like, Daddy, it's too hard. I'm like, okay, I should listen to my 3rd grade daughter. So we traded. Now I'm going to, instead of looking for a 7 like I just did, which is how we got paired up, I'm going to look for a 5. I'm going to find someone with a 5. Oh, up here's a 5. So Ed's got a 5. And now, that's my walkie. Now I'm going to use my talkie. Ed's talkie is a 3. He's a 3 level, and I'm a 7 suddenly. So now we work on another scenario, and we work with the assumption that he's at a 3 on the scale of 0 to 9, and I'm at a 7. So I might be a bit more advanced. And we might pick a different competency area. The trick here is, or the goal here is, just to get everyone talking about what is this guy Vic talking about pair coaching, and oh, okay, how can I use it to make him be quiet, and what types of things are you going to find? And then we're going to just report up some examples. So, did I lose anybody completely? Are we good?
Asking us to do the coaching or pick the type of coaching we would.
You're going to mostly focus on picking the type, because I want to find out why you pick a certain role. And I want everyone to kind of share experiences of like, we think this role would work well in this situation.
Do I match the talkie with one of the things that I wrote here? Or do I just
you don't have to.
Okay.
We did this as merely a way to think about competencies and skill levels. But you don't have to match it identically at all.
Okay.
But it's more of a how to think, a framework. Okay, so with that, you've all got dominoes. So let's spend 2 to 3 minutes. I'll just kind of keep an eye. Find someone who matches up with one of your domino numbers, and then work through a scenario. All right, go ahead and wrap up your conversation and find a seat. All right. So my first question is, how was that?
That was great.
Oh, good.
Very interesting.
I was surprised that no one was just standing around staring at me looking for guidance. Thank you. You guys did great. The goal was to get people talking to each other, hopefully people that they're not sitting next to, i.e. not someone that they traveled here with that they know very well. So I appreciate you working through that with me. And just as an aside, I'm very open to hearing any feedback that you might have on how this game could be improved offline. We could do that afterwards in the hall, or you can tweet me or email me. My Twitter handle is Agile Coffee. Agile Coffee. So feel free to reach out to me there with any suggestions for improvement or ideas or questions. I'd be happy to do it. But for now, I'd like to kind of move into hearing results back from anyone who wants to volunteer. Were there any surprises? Were there any findings that you think would be beneficial to take back to the workplace? Yeah.
Well, in our exercise here, right, I realized, there's some things that I can actually take back to work and then empower somebody, or, give them the opportunity to get into more like my role so that I can understand the whole Agile process better. So using some of these techniques like trainer observer.
Trainer observer, yeah.
Or maybe co-learners, team up with somebody else.
Right.
Because every team is different and the experience is different. And everybody has a different experience even though you're doing something similar.
Good. Thanks. Yeah, Joe.
So I worked with Jeremy, and we both had high numbers. Our scenario was I just got to the company, so he was going to be my buddy for go high.
Great. Yeah.
And then what we realized is that worked really good for the team, but when we went to talk to the leaders, we decided we needed to change our approach. So we went to good cop action.
Good. Anyone else want to share? Yeah.
We talked about the pushback that we get from the team when doing story point estimation and how to do one of the techniques, and we thought maybe a driver navigator would be a good solution for that approach between the product owner and the Scrum Master.
Thank you. Any other observations on anything that we've covered today, whether it's the roles? Yeah, Gary?
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, that's fine.
So we're moving on.
Yeah, we're just tying up. I think we're coming to the end of the session here.
All right. Because actually, when Kevin and I were doing the game, we realized that we could do any one of these three because we're similar skill level.
Right.
But we both agreed that we could never see ourselves doing the good cop, bad cop. I'm wondering.
I want to ask why, because I'm let me just ask you why before me saying anything.
Well, I guess maybe it's because I'm an Agile coach, and it's like such a no-no to basically dictate to a team what you do.
Right.
A bad cop role. I could never see myself doing that.
I agree with, I don't know if you heard Gary, but he says they couldn't find themselves, neither Kevin nor Gary could find themselves saying, okay, I'm going to be a bad cop, I'm going to dictate terms to a team. And I agree with that. I still think it may be a valuable role, so I wanted to highlight it. And I'm not sure. I don't think I used the right example when I had you kind of, I don't want to do a retrospective of the team. That's probably not the best role, but maybe somewhere in the organization there might be. Yeah, Paul.
I think if you be transparent about it, that, I'm putting on my bad cop hat, I'm being a little bit of a dick about it.
I mean, sometimes
the team will be open to.
Sometimes the team has to take their medicine and they don't want to, but you know as a coach it's the best thing for them.
Yeah.
So if you're saying, as a coach, I'm telling you it's the best thing for you, they might walk all over you. So you might need to have someone. Right, yeah, Ted.
I've heard Scrum Masters say that there are just times when you have to allow the team to fail and take the consequences.
Right.
And that seems like a good time to be a bad cop.
Good.
Consequences.
Consequences.
To deliver the consequences.
Yes.
Yeah. Kevin.
I use this sometimes in retrospectives. We designate someone as the devil's advocate.
Oh, there you go.
So even though they don't think it's a bad thing, it gets the conversation going of the opposite end of what is good. This may be bad. I'm playing this role so that that person is not targeted, but you're bringing out possible consequences.
So I may update this role to instead say bad cop, good cop. I might say something like devil's advocate. That's a great spin on it. Last comment here, maybe one or two.
Just make a comment. That's a good way to lessons learned.
Yeah.
Because playing that role, you'll get a lot of people thinking and generating good ideas.
Right.
Just a quick question. You were talking about pairing here, but I find I'm alone all the time. So,
Alone at the office or here in today's?
Project managers.
Yeah. well, maybe there's other project managers, maybe there's someone in leadership that you can work with. A system lead might work. It's not always going to be 2 Scrum Masters working together, or 2 project managers, or a project manager and a product owner. You might have to be creative in like, who can I pair with and how, you know?
Charles, I mean, just a suggestion, just to kind of think outside the box, it doesn't necessarily need to be another PM working with you. You could pick another person in the meeting that you trust, you know, to give you good feedback. So before the meeting starts, you pull them over and say, hey, Bob, would you do me a favor? I'm going to run this meeting today. Would you just observe me and then give me some feedback afterwards and all of that? So it could be even something as simple as that.
But make sure it's good Bob, not bad Bob.
That's
There's a story behind that, by the way.
Yeah.
One of the things that you're able to do is if you have that faith in somebody that maybe hasn't played that role, it's a growth opportunity for someone else as well. And you put them in a position where now all of a sudden they feel like they're the trusted advisor, and that sometimes people just need that confidence to be able to meet that forthright and help. So you provide that opportunity for somebody.
So I want to do in closing, thank you, first of all, and ask for the dominoes back. And finally, to remind you that once you do pair coaching, you will never walk alone. Thanks.
Thank you very much.